Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome in to Pickaxe and Roll here at Mile High Sports. I'm your host, Ryan Blackburn at NBA Blackburn on Twitter, part of the Mile High Sports Podcast Network, and I am here. I am ready to discuss the Denver Nuggets and everything about this. It should be a very, very interesting episode after last night's win against the Toronto Raptors. Final score 106-103. Denver closed 2025 with a very impressive performance, and hopefully 2026 is exactly what you're hoping for as a Nuggets fan, from the little moments that you can celebrate like last night to the greater picture, the larger picture, where Denver obviously escaped major injuries. And the hope being is that once everybody gets back and gets healthy, then you can start to really think about doing something special. So should be very, very fun. Glad to see some regulars in here. Glad to see a whole bunch of folks having a good time. Hope your day off, if you do have a day off, is a good one. Wanted to kick off the new year by talking to the people and talking to my favorite folks, the Pickaxe and Roll crew. Everybody here is very special to me, and very excited to sort of really let's turn over a new leaf here in 2026. Let's keep doing a lot of the same great things that we've been doing, but I want to keep being very productive. Want to keep being very good at my job and providing you guys the best possible content and the best sounding board that I possibly can for Nuggets content and Nuggets news, and providing the analysis and all the special things that I can do. So hopefully this will be a very good year, and I'm excited to be a part of it with you guys. Okay, let's talk about a variety of things. We'll talk about last night's game. I've got a new nickname for the group that was out there last night. We'll talk about Denver surviving in Toronto. We'll talk about 2026, and is this the year of DaRon Holmes? Probably not in kind of the grand scheme of things, but we can still have fun with it. We'll still talk about it and really celebrate a cool moment for DaRon Holmes in his rookie season. We've got a super chat from Cedric. Cedric is everywhere with the 199. Sup, Brian? Made it to 2026. Happy New Year. Nugs will be okay. Yes, they will. Yes, they will, good sir. Happy New Year to you. And I hope everybody out there is staying safe, having a good time, and doing things the right way. And I got to imagine that everybody here excited to be a part of the community once again. So happy New Year to you guys. And make sure to treat, as I said on the last episode, I'm pretty sure, maybe this was on Locked On last night. Treat people good. Treat people good this new year. They deserve it, and you deserve it. Let's talk about last night. Let's talk about the game. A very impressive performance. I gotta say, going into the game without Christian Brown, Cam Johnson, Aaron Gordon, Nikola Jokic, and then seeing Jonas Valanciunas go down during the middle of the game, I thought, okay, well, Denver's got a pretty ready-made excuse here to not have to win this game, to not have to provide the best possible game, and nobody would be the wiser, right? Nobody would have cared. Nobody would have blamed them for dropping that game last night. But then you start off with a really good first quarter. Denver goes up by nearly double digits and spent some time up double digits in the second quarter as well. Toronto, they work their way back. They try to work their way back into the game, and ultimately it becomes a game in the second half. But Denver just holds on by a thread. They keep holding on. They do everything that they can to keep Toronto's runs at bay. One of the great things from last night's game, obviously Denver got a little bit of help, right? Toronto went 12 of 45 from three, which is 27%. That is not very good. Now, Denver only went 10 of 34, which was 29%. So it wasn't like Denver was that much better. But Toronto taking as many threes as they did, it really helped Denver. And I thought that the process that Toronto underwent in this last game was not very good. I think that they assumed that Denver would just roll over, that they wouldn't necessarily provide that great emphasis on, hey, we're gonna go to the detail, we're gonna do the detail work, we're gonna play really hard, we're going to execute really well, and Denver did in some of those ways. Not every way. I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but Denver did enough. They did enough in this case, and did some really good things, and I thought handled their business really really well all the way through. And like you look at Denver, unfortunately, the offense really dried up in the second half. They did their good work in the first half. They put up 63 points in the first half and then 43 points in the second half. But they didn't allow Toronto to go on this crazy run either, where Toronto, they scored 54 points in the second half, but they only scored 49 in the second half as Denver really clamped down. And the guys that I really think deserve the most credit for that, Peyton Watson, Spencer Jones. I think Peyton had some moments where he let go of the rope at times, but on the defensive end specifically. But Bruce Brown deserves some credit. Just the hustle around mentality and the ability to contest. I think DaRon Holmes did a really nice job there as well, especially when guys like Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram and some of these other guys were attacking one on one. Thought that DaRon did a really nice job in those limited minutes. Uh, but overall, there's just plenty of guys I think you could say stepped up, and that's what you have to have when you have the Great Northern Eight. That's what I'm calling this one right now. If you guys can come up with a better name in the comments down below, then let me know. But I'm calling this one the Great Northern Eight because Denver had 8 guys that played last night. You had the 5 starters. Jalen Pickett started in place of Tim Hardaway Jr. Jonas Valanciunas obviously started in place of Jokic, but you've got Murray, Pickett, Watson, Spencer Jones, Jonas Valanciunas, and then off the bench, Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr., and DaRon Holmes. Only 8 guys. You had Julian Strawther, Zeke Naji, Hunter Tyson, Curtis Jones. None of them played in this one. And so is it quite like the Magnificent Seven game where Denver only had 7 guys available in Utah? That's the reference that is coming from. I don't know. I think that one felt a little bit more special just because of the team that they were facing off against. Like Utah that year was really good, and Denver still found a way to get it done. But I do think that also I see Royal Flush says the Northern Eight, the Northern Eight game. I think that one sounds the best. So we're gonna go with that. Where this is the Northern Eight. But I think just the way that this group came together, it wasn't pretty, right? Like it wasn't a game where, yeah, you could just throw the ball into Jokic and run 2-man game with him and Murray, and they would just run that to death until they figured it out. Like this game, Denver had to get a little bit more creative. They had to do some things that they normally don't do. And it's going to be a lot of this without Jokic, right? Like Denver's going to have to find ways to scrap and fight and claw. And you would hope that Jonas Valanciunas would be a part of that, but he goes down during the middle of the third quarter with a calf injury. By the way, I didn't notice this when I did the show last night. Michael Grange, who is Grange, I don't remember exactly how to pronounce his name, in Toronto. He's a Toronto Raptors reporter. He has a previous connection with Jonas Valanciunas, who played there earlier in his career. And so he asked Jonas, like, what happened? And Jonas said he felt a pop in that calf. Obviously, super visceral and ugly and gross, and that is a not awesome thing to hear when you're talking about a lower leg and a calf injury, because usually what that means is an Achilles. Hopefully, that's not what's happening here. But the way that he reacted in the game, it looked like it didn't look like a tear or anything like that. It just looked like a strain of some sort. However, we don't know. And so the hope is that we get a little bit more good information on that. And hopefully this isn't a long-term thing that Jonas has to deal with. And it's more like a 2 to 3 week thing that he has to deal with. But again, like if you're without Jokic and now you're without Valanciunas at the same time, like Denver, their whole flow has to change in those cases. Their whole ability, their offense that they were really like trying to put together for this entire season was built around having Jokic or Valanciunas as options that you could go to in the paint, as options that you could go to in the post, in some like pick and pop situations, different things like that. There's offensive rebounding, things of that nature. Like that was what you were really hoping for. So what do you do now? like uh Zeke Nashi didn't even play last night. They decided to go with DaRon Holmes in his stead. And then they like briefly decided, okay, we're going to play Spencer Jones as a small ball five. If you've heard me talk about this before, you knew that I was really thinking about Spencer Jones as a small ball five in this case. So Denver's obviously going to have to figure that out too. But like they just have to fight, scrap, and claw. Like there's no real good options here for Denver. And so credit to Jamal Murray for kind of directing the ship last night. He didn't have an efficient night. There's no way about it. Like he didn't necessarily play well individually, but sometimes you just need somebody to handle the rock and you need somebody to take on some of that responsibility. Credit to him. 21, 7, and 6, relatively inefficient, but 7 of 7 from the free throw line. And then he made it a late bucket that actually gave Denver the margin that they needed in that game. And then credit to Peyton Watson, who 24 points, 18 of those came in the first half. Peyton Watson still stayed relatively efficient, especially inside the arc. He was 9 of 19 and 5 of 7 from the free throw line. That's good enough in a game like this where it's a more defensive-minded game. That's good enough, and he did a really nice job of getting to the spots that he needed to get to. Only 1 of 6 from 3, so hopefully he can find that spacing from the 3-point line going forward, but still feels like Denver, they needed that. They needed that desperately from those two guys, and I'm not surprised, honestly, that it's those two guys that really stepped up. I kind of thought that Tim Hardaway would be better. He only had 9 points on 13 shots, 3 of 13 from the field, 3 of 9 from 3. Maybe it's just a Toronto matchup specifically. Tim's also played every game, I'm pretty sure. So it wouldn't surprise me if he's also getting a little bit tired. And now if you're Tim Hardaway, you probably weren't expecting to play 30 minutes a night on a consistent basis with this group. But Denver's obviously had a whole bunch of injuries on the wings, and they've needed him to step up and be out there on a consistent basis. Bruce Brown missed a couple free throws at the end of that game. I thought he played reasonably well for the vast majority of the game, but holy cow, those missed couple of free throws nearly burned Denver as the ball gets kicked out to Brandon Ingram all the way down the floor. He banks in a 3 right at the buzzer, but it was right after the buzzer. And so that would have tied up the game and sent it to overtime. And I said this in my article last night. If that game had gone 49 minutes, Denver would have lost. And certainly if it had gone to overtime, it would have lost. But fortunately, games like this only go 48 minutes, and Denver gave everything that they could to win in 48. So glad that they were able to do it. It felt like they absolutely needed it. And I am very curious to see how they handle things going forward with this group. So we'll see how it goes, but really good win. Really good win. There's no two bones about it. Like lots of guys that you can talk about stepping up. Jalen Pickett had a really nice first quarter. He obviously slowed down going forward, but had a really nice first quarter and scored all 10 of his points in the early stages of this game. DaRon Holmes, we'll talk about on the other side for sure. Spencer Jones did a really nice job, even without making a single shot. Like he went 6 of 6 from the line. That was really important, but had some really nice connective plays and did some great things on the defensive end. So thought that Denver, like you just find ways to win. And the way that they competed, the way that they guarded, didn't necessarily guard Brandon Ingram that great on the perimeter, but outside of that, I thought they did everything else really, really well. And that's all you can really ask for from this group. So hopefully that continues to manifest and hopefully they continue to find ways. But yeah, like they needed this one. They lost the first couple of games of that road trip in Orlando, in Miami. Now you go up to Toronto and you get this one. I don't know how many games they're going to be able to win on the rest of this road trip. It'll be interesting to see when Christian Brown comes back, when Aaron Gordon comes back. Obviously, those guys are a little bit sooner and ready to comeback than guys like Cam Johnson and even Nikola Jokic. But if Denver can get some reinforcements back, then maybe they'll have a little bit of extra breathing room. But without a couple of centers, it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle it. So we'll find out. We will find out together. But tell you what, let's take a break. When we come back, we are going to discuss 2026. Will this be the year of the Nuggets? Will this be the year of DaRon Holmes? Will be very interesting to see from that perspective. We'll be right back here on Pickaxe and Roll. All right, we are back. Pickaxe and Roll, Ryan Blackburn here. Thank you so much for tuning into the show, folks. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Would really, really appreciate it. We'll be interested. So we've got some changes that are going on at MHS. So kind of in between a couple of different things, but very excited to see what's coming up next here at Mile High Sports. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel would be really appreciative. One of the things that we're doing here at MHS that you definitely need to check out, the Broncos coverage that Cody Rourke is doing, that Rachel Vigil is doing over at the Orange Crush podcast. Troy Rank does a Broncos show on Mile High Sports. Make sure to check those out. You're looking at the top seed in the NFL. I think top seed in the NFL, which is crazy. That's insane to think about. So they've been doing great content. Make sure to go check it out, especially as they transition into playoff coverage over there. Should be very interesting. Okay, let's talk about 2026. Let's talk about where the Nuggets are at. One of the things that I wanted to look at, because I was kind of curious, where does Denver rank on the offensive end? Where do they rank on the defensive end? It's not great. they rank great on the offensive end, that's for sure. Per Cleaning the Glass, they are first in the NBA by a consistent amount. They are averaging 125 points per 100 possessions. I would guess that number drops pretty substantially in the time without Jokic. However, like Denver, if they like had a healthy Jonas Valanciunas during this stretch and they had the ability to go to Christian Brown, Aaron Gordon at various points and get just a little bit of extra stuff, they could maintain it. I don't think that they're going to, though. I think that more than likely Denver's going to see some drop off in their historic offensive levels. But you hope that they compensate with some better defense because they currently have a 118.1 defensive rating, which is 21st in the NBA. They have officially dropped back to basically what last year was for them. They're just a little bit more potent on the offensive end, and that is good enough in this case. That's all that they've really needed for it to be. But yeah, they are first in offense and 21st in defense. That is pretty aggressively bad. They are below Chicago now in terms of their defensive rating, and other teams that they're trailing are Milwaukee, Portland, Atlanta, New York. Boston is at 15, and you start to get into these better areas at that point. Denver, if they are going to survive in 2026, needs to be better than 20th or 21st defensively. That's just straight up how it has to happen. Like they are not going to be able to rely on elite offense this entire time. And if they're going to stay above water, if they're going to defeat these other teams, they're going to need to find a way to dig deep on the defensive end and give some really good energy and execution and closeouts and making sure that they're making the right reads and doing all of those things. That has to happen. It just straight up has to. And if Denver's unable to make that work, then they're going to fall in the standings, because right now Denver is third in the NBA in their standings in the Western Conference. And like they've done a really good job of staying ahead of the pack for the most part. OKC is 29-5. Denver is 23-10. In between them, San Antonio's 24-9. San Antonio, obviously, they've got a game lead on Denver, and honestly, the way that they've played without Wembanyama, with the way that Denver now has their injuries, I kind of expect that gap to widen. A surprising performance from San Antonio. They've done really good job. A really impressive performance from San Antonio in clutch play, which is a place where Denver has not necessarily executed as well. Um, to me, I get the impression that San Antonio is going to play a little bit above their heads from a record perspective. I still don't see them as a major contender in the Western Conference. However, like they've got a lot of talent, and there's no doubt about it that they have the talent necessary to win a lot of regular season games. So Denver, like they're going to have trouble keeping pace. And teams that are behind them, Houston is 20-10. They've only played 30 games so far. Not sure why that is. Denver's played 33 and Houston has played 30. Has Denver played? No, they haven't played the most games. Golden State and Portland have each played 34. New Orleans has played 35. Oh man, they are no wonder they're at the bottom. They've been really like squeezing in a whole bunch of games with them at that point. Yeah, Champagne. I love this spelling of Champagne. That's amazing. Yeah, 11 threes last night from Julian Champagne, or was it the night before? What an insane stat. Like, what an insane game to have. So, Denver needs to have a couple of games like that with some of their other role players, and that's the way you survive. That's the way you generate wins in the NBA. Is you just find ways to like amp it up in those situations, and then somebody who you're not expecting to step up, it just really has a crazy game. Maybe this is Spencer Jones going for 7 threes as opposed to the 5 of 5 that he was in Miami. Like you really start to get into some crooked numbers there. But Denver's going to need that because like they're going to have to try to stay ahead of teams like Houston, who's 20-10. The Lakers are 20-11. Minnesota's 21-13. So all three of those teams are within 3 losses of Denver. So the fewer losses Denver accumulates during this time, the better position they'll be. And obviously, you would expect the Rockets, the Lakers, the T-Wolves to also sustain losses at various points. And like Minnesota has actually been very, very shaky during this stretch. And like none of those teams are going to be infallible. But if any of them go on a run, then that makes it so that Denver might drop into the 4-5 matchup. And that is not what you want if you are a Nuggets fan. You want to face the Thunder in the conference finals if you have to. You want to face them as late as possible. You want to give your team as much of an opportunity as you can to build chemistry, to build themselves back up and give themselves as much confidence as possible, really dominating against a couple of other teams. You'll want to see if the Thunder could sustain an injury themselves, if they wear down over the course of a season, especially if they continue trying to really I don't think that they're going to go 74-8 during this season, but if they go 70-12, then that's going to take a lot of effort. It's going to take a lot of energy. And if they actually want to maintain that pace, they're going to have to play pretty hard in the regular season again. So the hope is that you wait for as long as possible to try to match up against OKC. And then if you're Denver, then like you just go to town. You go to work with Jokic and Murray at that point, and Aaron Gordon and guys like that. So will be interesting to see where the standings ultimately fall. But it does seem to me like Denver, if they want to give themselves the best possible chance, they got to find ways to win at this stretch. I don't know if they will be, but it's going to be very interesting to see how they handle it. Okay. A lot of talk about JV in the comments I'm seeing. A lot of talk about potentially resting. He could be out for weeks. There's plenty of things that Denver has to think about. I want to talk about DaRon Holmes, who deserves a tremendous amount of credit for last night and the way that the Nuggets have handled him over the course of the first 30, 32, 33 games of the season. Like, he was in a position where he was not really he couldn't have expected to play that much this year. He spent a lot of time in the G League. A lot of it was something that he asked for himself, as has been publicized. Like, he's asked for this before. He wanted to go down to the G League. He wanted to get reps. He wanted to Rather than just sit on the bench and watch, he wanted to play and really try to get himself back into shape and get himself into a good position. And clearly he's done that. Clearly the work that he's put in the G League has helped him. I still think maybe this is a stylistic thing for how DaRon looks and how he moves. I still think he looks light. I still think that he looks like a player who is trying to figure out how to be physical in the NBA game. And it's one of the harder things for a new player to figure out, especially somebody who is coming off of an Achilles tear like he was. And he's still trying to figure out life, still trying to figure out how he's supposed to play, what he's supposed to do. And so I'm not surprised that it took a little bit of time. Um, okay, there's a lot of no. Real one is it's not a politics answer. Like he's actually, I have it on my own personal record that it's not a politics answer. Um, but when they needed a win, when they needed to go and they had to really change what they were supposed to do, January 1st came around or December 31st came around, and DaRon Holmes was in the lineup instead of Zeke Naji. And I kind of think that it's obviously interesting. It's obviously like Zeke Naji's in his 6th year. You would expect him to be the guy that gets the opportunity in that situation as a backup center. Somebody like because they didn't want to put DaRon at backup center a lot of the time, but they had to. Like it was just a absolute requirements that they needed to put him out there. And the fact that they did, the fact that they put him into that position and he held up like 11 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block. Again, I thought he did a really nice job defensively one-on-one in a lot of these cases against Scotty Barnes, against Brandon Ingram, against RJ Barrett, against any of the guys that were really trying to attack him. Like massive credit to DaRon for stepping up. And he even made a couple shots, like a couple of the threes that he made. There were some times where Murray was not really passing him the ball, and there were a couple of guys that would kind of look him off a little bit, not necessarily be passing him the ball. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know if there's like anything to that or not. But when they did pass him the ball into a situation where DaRon was able to shoot, he made those shots and went 2 of 3 from 3, almost made the dagger like in late in the 4th quarter, clock winding down, less than a minute to go, like almost made an absolutely insane 3 from the left wing. And had he done so, that would have been like absolute legendary moments for DaRon getting into the NBA at this point. I don't know how long this is going to last. I don't know what the health situation for Jonas Valanciunas is going to be. Aaron Gordon, when he comes back, is probably going to take up some of those backup center minutes as well. It's possible that Zeke Naji gets back out there as Denver tries to, make it look like he's playable and put him into a position where they could potentially trade him. I don't know if that's actually what's going to happen. It would be my goal if I were the front office at this point. But I do think that with DaRon out there, any moment that you could get him out there that's actual NBA moments is a really big deal. And the hope is that as he continues to take on more responsibility in this point, that he's ready sooner and sooner. And he's somebody that Denver can trust in the future. I don't think this is going to be a situation where he plays right now and is immediately going to be somebody that they have to play in the playoffs or anything like that. I think what Spencer Jones has done so far has really elevated him to the point that if they're able to convert his contract, then I think that that'll be the guy that they prioritize because of what he's already done. And I think everybody trusts him at this point. It'll take some time for DaRon to earn that trust. And it's harder to do that in January and February and when everybody gets healthy at that point. And then you go to the post All-Star break and then the rotation just clamps down at that point. DaRon won't be out there, and that's okay. Like this is the opportunity that he has to really step up and get these moments right now. And the hope is that you take advantage of that time as much as possible. And if it goes reasonably well, then maybe he's somebody that they could trust a little bit sooner than they would expect. I I think his skill set, like if he continues to shoot like this, then obviously you got to have him out there. Like that's somebody that you're going to need to have on the floor at 6'9" with some versatility. He is still not necessarily confident with the ball in his hands all the time. Like he's trying to pass the ball, he's trying to get the ball out of his hands in these DHO situations. There's things that he's going to have to learn. So hopefully that like, once Denver really starts to invest in his development with the NBA squad, then there are some things that they could get him ready for going forward. But I think last game was a good sign. Like it's all you could really ask for in that case. So hopefully he continues to go. Hopefully he continues to learn, and I'll be curious to see how he handles it, how the Nuggets handle him as well. Should be fun. Okay, final thing before we get out of here. I think the Nuggets are still in a position where they can win the title. Like, knock on wood. The injuries that they have sustained have put them into a really uncomfortable position at this point. However, this was always going to be a difficult stretch. And you saw some malaise and some other issues that they were having during that time. There's still some things that they have needed to figure out from a defensive perspective. There's no doubt about it. With Jokic, he was kind of papering over a lot of different things. And I think we're going to start to see those things come to the forefront here over the course of this month. And that's good. Like, that's okay because you're right before the trade deadline, and maybe there's something that you could really figure out over that stretch. Maybe this is an opportunity for other guys to step up. Jamal Murray's obviously stepped up in a major way over the course of much of this season. And when Christian Brown comes back, when Aaron Gordon comes back, those guys are going to have an opportunity to do so as well. So I'm looking forward. I think that everybody is in a position with this kind of staggered injury time that Denver has had, where once people come back, there's going to be different elements that they can work on, different lineups that they could work on, different combinations and things like that. Where, I mean, did you really expect Jalen Pickett to be out there and giving Denver a major boost in that first quarter the way that he did in this last game? Probably not. But you found that, hey, maybe a trio of Jamal Murray, Jalen Pickett, and Jonas Valanciunas actually makes a lot of sense because you've got a guy that you could dump the ball into in the post. You've got somebody that can run some DHOs. You've got Murray, who's going to take a lot of attention, and Pickett's a pretty solid shooter. It's somebody who could play on and off the ball. It's things like that. And so when Christian Brown comes back and when Aaron Gordon comes back and you could start to develop some of these other combinations, learn about your team in this way, I think that's going to be really valuable. I think it's going to be really helpful for Denver right before the All-Star break. And then that's a reset. And then that's real go time at that point where you start to really play hard. You start to really lock in and you give yourself the best possible chance that you can. And I think at that point, Denver will really start to see championship potential. Like we've already seen it before. For the most of the last month and a half, I would say, it's been about survival without different guys. Now it's and when everybody comes back, and it's still survival right now, obviously, without Jokic. But when everybody comes back, it's going to be about thriving. It's going to be about learning about yourself and what you've learned over the course of this stretch and really starting to apply it. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be very interesting to see how this team handles it. Can they stay above water in the standings? We'll find out. But I'm looking forward to finding out about it together, folks. So should be good. All right, everybody, that is going to do it for this episode of Pickaxe and Roll, brought to you by good friends here at Mile High Sports. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. Really appreciate the love and support on the podcast as always. Happy 2026. Really, really appreciate everybody for stopping by. Hopefully you start off the year right. And hopefully if 2025 wasn't great, then it's in the past. That's good. Now 2026 can be even better. Should be great. All right, everybody, have a great day. I will be back on Saturday.